Hey, what's up? I don't really know what I'm gonna do today. I feel like shit. So I'll stream until I can't or pass out or something. I don't really know what I want to stream. Let's see. I saw this and I'm like incredibly close. In fact, I have it downloaded, Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition. I saw this Veilguard or whatever the new one is. And what did they do to my poor Dragon Age? Like, what did they actually do to this game? This franchise, I should say. Let me throw up a Twitter post just for fun. Because I am so disappointed in the game and what they've done with Dragon Age. Why is that at like 480? Okay, let me throw this up there. Okay. This is just... I don't know. This ain't it.
You have no idea what you have done. The blighted elven gods walk free.
This looks fine,
disrupted my ritual.
but this is just not it.
They will not rest until you are on your knees. Fearful, cowering, helpless in the face of such power.
Rook, you've got this. I've seen your work. You're clever, adaptable, and you don't know when to quit.
It's too... like, vibrant?
I've got places to look.
Where do we start? I'll be damned. A griffin. In war, victory.
So they had a little blood there.
I'm ready.
I've I've never seen
blood
this
is still
before.
there,
There's
I
something
guess.
kind of exciting about it. What is happening to me?
Let the fade draw close.
Draw the dragon out into the open. Then attack.
You and me, Rook. Maybe that's what scares me.
These are the times in which legends are born or slain.
Our gods are back. Our gods. How do we stand against that?
I believe in all of us. So let's get it done.
It just looks like WoW or something. Like, I'm sure the game will be fine. Maybe. But it just... Here. Like, right there is all you need to know.
For centuries, we have kept our vigil. We have watched and waited for the Darkspawn to return.
It's like it's a
There are
different
those who
series
have
entirely.
doubted, who have forgotten. But it has always been our duty to remember. In peace, vigilance.
Dude, that is so fucking badass. Like, holy shit.
In war, victory. In death, sacrifice.
What the fuck did they do?
This is
Where
what
is
it
this
means
game?
to be a Grey Warden.
I don't know about the music, but like it's a completely different thing. Yeah, music's not what I would want to. What do they do to my game, man? Like, it used to be so fucking cool.
They're coming.
Like, this shit went hard.
We are the Grey Wardens, men and women from every race, warriors and mages, barbarians and kings. We have watched and waited for the Darkspawn to return. And although we are few now,
I am at your disposal, Grey Wardens.
the Darkspawn must be stopped here and now.
like screamo metal. It's so sad what it turned into.
Turning back. Make
First genre of music. I don't know. I like some screamo stuff.
Hell.
I like all music though. I don't think it goes with the tone of the trailer. Take that over Veilguard or whatever.
You sold out your own brother to become a magister.
You have no idea what we went through.
Yeah, well, I mean, that I don't know if you've played Dragon Age. That's not what the game music is. It's what the company that made the trailer that EA obviously outsourced this thought would be like cool or whatever. I didn't like that in they did that with like Mortal Kombat as well, and it's like, okay, like yeah. Stop doing that. Like, God, it just looks so like it's a completely different thing. It was like bloody and like fucking brutal and shit. And then Dragon Age 2 came out. And that one like was rushed. I didn't really play that one a whole lot. I mean, it was whatever. It was better than these though. And I'm not saying these games are going to be bad, but they're just not Dragon Age. This looks like generic fantasy RPG number 45029-B.
You want allies
Like,
to
it
help
looks,
the
it's
gods?
just, it, it's just generic fantasy stuff. Where's the brutality? Where's...
You and me, Rook. Maybe that's what scares me.
These are the times in which legends
It's like, is this like a WoW expansion? Again, it's fine, but it's not
born
Dragon Age.
or slain.
This could be Kingdoms of Amalur, which is a great game. That's a great game. Kingdoms of Amalur is fucking great. But I don't want that. I want fucking Dragon Age.
Our gods. How do we stand against that?
I believe in all of us. So let's get it done.
The combat doesn't look very good in this either. Fire 4. Well, you should do yourself a service and play Dragon Age Origins. Because I know how much you like those old games and Baldur's Gate and shit. You are doing yourself a vast disservice by not playing Origins. That's the reason Origins... yeah, Amalur is definitely generic, but it was good. Origins was like the answer to the fans that wanted more Icewind Dale, old school Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment stuff. Like, that game was specifically made for those people. And it's fucking amazing. And then the second one sucked because I haven't even played it in a long time, but like the second one sucked compared to the first one. But I also played Inquisition, and Inquisition was like this. Again, it's fine, it's whatever, but it's like it's all generic. It's safe. It's safe. It's oversaturated. I mean, it's this. It's and I'll play this. But this was not what Dragon Age initially, like, was. Dragon Age. Because I have Dragon Age Origins down. I downloaded it a couple months ago. I actually bought it. It's legit on Steam. It's like, man, I want to play that now. Since I saw this official trailer, I was like, Oh my god, I just need to go and play the original. The Warden's Calling trailer. That's the one I just watched. Nice. Yeah, it's what Origin, which one do I have? Origins Ultimate Edition. You know what? They'll probably have it. Because I want to see some of the earlier, I want to see like the reveal trailer for it. Man, I went and tried the space stuff in Ultima again, and then I fucking died. And like, I really don't want to. I don't want to go and farm gold just to die again. I'm very, very seriously thinking about skipping to 3 because I've read a lot about Ultima 2, and it's bad on like a level that like Simon's Quest 2 or Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest was, where like it has some weird cryptic shit that you won't know what to do without a guide. Everyone's like, just go and play the third one if you must, but then like the fourth one is like when shit really starts getting going. So I don't know. But I want to play 1, 2, and 3, and I want to beat them, but I also want to, not fucking stab my eyes out. And like Origins, they have elves or like Dalish elves. There's like 2 different types of elves. There's 2 different types of stuff. And like, if I remember correctly, the game is really fucking like dark and shit. Like the elves, they just went kind of recently in history. They just got released from being like slaves to humans, like literal like fucking slavery, and they're on like these little. They're kind of like what do you call them, like gypsies or something like that, like Romani people, like moving around, and like they're just a fucking lowest tier. Like there's so much like racism and fucked up shit in Dragon Age Origins, but now it's like, oh, it's all clean and everything. Like, what the fuck? I guess this is the reveal. Oh, you're right. How do I even do that? This is on Steam. Do I have to I think it might be that. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, this was through the Steam client. I even have the Dragon Age tabletop role-playing game when that first came out. I was like super impressed with Dragon Age way back in the day. It's very like Lord of the Rings feeling. Kind of like a, I wouldn't say it's like a low magic, but it's like dark fantasy kind of. I don't know. It's very brutal. It exploded. I haven't seen this in so long. Dude, that's fucking badass.
Strike when she comes for me!
And like the whole premise of the game is you have to become a Grey Warden because like the armies of hell are like about to break through. And you have to like, I believe it's at the very beginning, you have to like drink the blood of Fellspawn, and you get, you know, the ability to like hold back the demonic legions or whatever. And like most people die when they like undergo that ceremony. Of course your character doesn't because you're the main character, but like that was their logo, a fucking dragon from like the blood you spilled, and now it's this bullshit. Like, so I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed.
When we set down to design the combat system for Origins, I think we were trying to modernize a classic. Baldur's Gate 2 has always been a reference point for us as the game that really let you feel like you were mixing.
That's all you need to know. That is all anyone needs to know. Their reference point, their basis was Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Amn.
Classes, abilities, combinations, smart planning, and on-the-moment thinking. So we decided to modernize that. Realistic combat fighting styles, like actually, you know, the weight of the sword, the presence of a maul smashing into a body, all of these things are really key for us. And I think what we resulted in is something you just have to think of as like sword porn. It's for the enthusiasts.
Sword porn? That's funny.
In terms of looking at source material, I think you have to look at classics. You know, The Lord of the Rings, 300, and certainly even some of the older stuff. Go back to the really best fight scenes you'd find in the Conan movies. Even this is a brutal time to be in, and we wanted to
great. Like I'm actually getting chill bumps listening to him describe it.
You could be both the general, lieutenant, that kind of commander role, as well as the guy just leading the charge. So we've put together several systems, including a tactics system that lets you fully control the AI of your characters, and of course just smart reactions to the way the enemies occur. So you kind of have that moment where you plan. You see the enemy, you're thinking like, how do I enact this grand strategy to make these characters do as much friggin' damage as I can? And then once you charge in there, the battle's just a swirling melee. You've got positioning, moving your rogues around behind so they're just jamming their...
And like the most recent thing, because I have been kind of keeping up with I was gonna say Baldur's Gate Veilguard, but the new one, Dragon Age Veilguard, is like they just said, and it's pissing off a lot of people. I don't know. I'm like iffy. Again, this is leaning more to the fact that this is not Dragon Age because you can't control your entire party. All of your other party members and stuff are controlled via AI, which is just, again, that's fine for what other kind of games, but that is not what Dragon Age is. It just isn't. And it's really disheartening.
Swords into kidneys. You have your warriors just holding that line, and your mages kind of holding the back line, just raining death upon your foes. So it's very in your face once you're engaged, but you always have that little moment just before where you go, oh, I know what's coming, and here's my plan. Often what you'll want to do is deal with the strategic impact of the equipment and the talents that you've chosen. So you want to try and mix your characters for maximum effectiveness. All characters have a sense of whether they're being flanked or whether the character's directly behind them. There's direct bonuses to everyone who's making attacks from those kind of harder to defend arcs. Even the sense of, you know, what weapon, what side are you using?
I wasn't a fan of Inquisition either.
You're swinging double weapons.
I didn't.
You can certainly use barricades.
My issue with Inquisition, I didn't play it right when it came out. I played it several years later. My deal with that is the areas were far too big, and I found myself 90% of the time clicking the R3, the joystick button, because that's like how you searched for stuff, you know, around you. But that's like all I was doing as I ran around. Like I wasn't running around to like go through the forest. I was running around just tapping that button. It's like, this fucking blows.
Walls, things like that to block incoming.
I mean, it was
fires,
fine, I
make
guess.
advances
But
carefully undercover, and then
I don't think
like
it
elevation really do
sucked,
play into the
but
mechanics as
it
well.
wasn't.
Even what you wear affects the tactics you're
Wasn't
going to
what
employ
I
in
wanted.
Dragon Age Origins. The heaviest armors in the game are going to protect you, but at the same time, they're going to slow you down. You're going to be fatigued just by wearing them, so you won't be able to pull off as many special moves.
Yeah, we might have to do another
Finishing
Origins
moves are
playthrough
the way that we've
for the
managed
first
to
time in like
basically
15
imply
years.
that the combat has a momentum. Finishing move is this awesome visceral moment where it's, you know, sword through the chest, boom, off comes his head. You know, smashing a guy with a maul so he goes spinning through the air and lands in front of you. Or possibly killing a really large creature by actually climbing on top of it and jamming your blade in.
We had some stunt actors
It's
from the
so
movie 300, like
freaking
doing some
brutal.
cool
They had-
swings, cool death blow moves.
And it's not just about flash. As you wear your opponents down, the game is dynamically adjusting the incidence of these happenings. We are essentially rewarding your combat dominance. As your opponents are worn down, their morale's starting to break, and you are just crushing them on the battlefield, you'll notice that
I
your
was
characters are
so hyped
finishing
for this
with
game,
far
and it
more
did not
frequency.
let me
More heads
down.
come off, more chests are pierced. It's pretty fantastic.
I think I was in the middle of
Isn't just about, you know,
grad school
rules
at the
and a
time.
couple
I'm
of
like,
animations.
thesis
So
can
that's
wait.
experience as far as I'm
Thesis can
concerned.
wait.
When a player comes out of a combat, what I really want is that sense of tension.
Yeah,
and then that
exactly.
release of, man, look at what I just pulled off. That sense of orchestrating something. I don't want to make a game that just softballs and you're like, oh yeah, I killed that guy again. No, I want you to feel challenged and like you were rewarded for playing smart.
This
For me,
this was when BioWare was good. This was right after, I think, or it was very soon after EA bought them, but they hadn't really fucked with them yet, like they did, you know, with Anthem and stuff, telling BioWare to make a MMO looter shooter, and they're like, we don't know how to do that, and they're like, do it anyway. Then it fucking blew, and they're, oh, well, why did you do it? Well, we don't know how to make a game like that. We know how to make single player games, and people left and got fired, and then they got their funding restricted, and then Andromeda came. Like, oh my gosh.
one of the most exciting parts,
Fucking
I think, will
hate
be
EA.
the war stories. You know, the forum posts, the water coolers. People even on the team are already discussing ways they dealt with Boss X. And that's pretty cool and very, very, very rewarding because it feels like the game was one that they played and it was for them.
Damn. Those were the days. Those were the days. I wanted to see their, like, initial reveal trailer. I guess they don't have it on here. Yeah, I was just watching this Veilguard, and it might be fine, but it's just not... It's just not Dragon Age. Dragon Age's logo should have a blood dragon behind it. It's just... I'm sure it'll be a fine game, but it's not gonna be a Dragon Age game. It looks generic as shit.
Not looking good, old friend. This'll take more than you and me.
What are you thinking?
We need someone to be our eyes and ears in the shadows.
And someone to bring a little darkness.
It's just generic fantasy. And it's far too, like, colorful.
And digging up a lot of buried secrets.
What about Darkspawn?
Yeah.
This was awful. The internet hated this.
Pack of demons.
You know there will be dragons.
Right. We'll need someone with fire in their blood.
See, I don't think those games look bad. I think I have a very different threshold of, like, what a bad game is. They look fine, I guess, serviceable. Like, a bad game to me is, like, Big Rigs or something like that. But it definitely isn't, like, it doesn't stand out, for sure. Avowed also looks like generic fantasy RPG 4526-D.
One more thing.
Well, Skyrim was shit too. I haven't liked Elder Scrolls since Morrowind.
Someone that the world can count on.
Well, it wasn't shit. I can't say it was shit. I like Skyrim fine, but Oblivion started the big downward slalom of Elder Scrolls because they took away medium armor and they took away spears. And I am a person who almost exclusively plays games with spears and medium armor. It's my favorite thing to do. So when they remove that, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? No, they still had medium armor in Oblivion. They took away medium armor in Skyrim. But they took away spears in Oblivion.
But where are we gonna find her?
Again, it's fine, but it's just, you know, how many times am I gonna say it's just not Dragon Age, right? It's really annoying though, because BioWare made Dragon Age for people that were tired of, like, the new kinds of RPGs and they wanted to go back to Baldur's Gate, that kind of, like, CRPG gameplay. And now it's just morphed into this. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not, like, I'll play it. Sure. I'm sure, like I said, it'll be fine. But I don't know. I have a feeling that I'll just want to go back and play Origins again. That's what I really feel like is going to happen. Let's see. Yeah, I have all the Forgotten Realms stuff and Dragonlance. Dragonlance is my favorite, like, fantasy world, I guess, in that kind of stuff. And there's never been, like, a really good Dragonlance game, which is a shame. But yeah, I've snatched up all those Forgotten Realms books before, I think it was 4th edition came out, and then I got all 4th edition stuff, and I personally like 4th edition. I think they marketed it terribly. But, like, I like the idea of what they were trying to do. Oh, I love them all. I fucking love them. I've read like 120 Dragonlance books or something. Like, I'm a fucking fanboy of Dragonlance, so I can't agree with that. I really enjoy the world, being like immersed with it. This is like my bread and butter. Yeah, they were okay. Yeah, yeah. It's hard to like draw people into a new world though. This is like, oh my god. That's why like it's like whenever you're done with the show or something, leaves this like big void of like, fuck, what am I gonna do now? Well, you can play this. And I gotta go get invested with all the characters in the world, and then I gotta do this and that, and it's just give me more of the thing that I know. What else is there? Oh, I wanted to watch Game Sex thing. I really need to put those interviews up on YouTube with Joe. I think they're already loaded up here. I haven't made a thumbnail for them though. This is Games That Push Hardware Limits.
Hello
11.
And welcome to GameSack. Today we're talking about some more games that push hardware limits. You know, games that do more with the hardware than originally thought possible. They push hardware limits. So enjoy watching this episode about pushing hardware limits while eating some pulled pork. Get it? You know, pushing hardware limits while eating pulled pork, push and pull? No?
Shut up, Joe.
Okay, so let's get away from that joke immediately and into the first game.
Yeah.
The year is 1990, and you're at home with your brand new $400 Neo Geo and your nearly $200 copy of Cyberlip. Hell yeah,
Never heard
life
of
is
it.
great because this is the real arcade game in your own house, not a watered down port. Contra can get wrecked because there's no way a run and gun could ever be this good at home. Hell, it even got an ad with a hot lady being ignored by the American Psycho himself playing Neo Geo and listening to Huey Lewis in the news. But then your friend comes over.
Great.
Is it your friend from next door? No. Down the street? Nope. Your
Never
friend
heard of this
is
game.
from the future, and he brings with him his nearly $4,000 copy of Metal Slug 3 for the Neo Geo. Wow, this game sure makes you feel like an idiot for ever thinking that Cyberlip was good. In fact, it can be tough to believe it's the same
Bait and
console.
switch.
This is a run and gun that totally blows away Cyberlip in every area. This game might have some of the best 2D pixel art ever created. As with all Metal Slug games, there's a lot going on here. You almost always have multi-layered backgrounds full of color. The enemies are many and the screen is often full of chaos. Of course, the nearly $4,000 copy of Metal Slug 3 for the home system doesn't have blood, so you're gonna need a way to play the cheaper arcade version, which otherwise is the same. And that makes this zombie stage so much better. In fact, you can get turned
That's
into
funny.
a zombie. When you do, you can use a special
I have
attack
like
that
the
fills
Metal
entire
Gear,
screen.
not Metal
And
Gear,
the animation
Metal
is some of
Slug
the best
like
ever seen in a
collection
2D video game.
on
They
Vita,
sure
I
didn't
think.
cheap out on the dying animations.
Damn, those are good animations.
You want that famous Neo Geo scaling? Well, there's a little bit here, like when these aliens spin around. Better than nothing, I guess. You even get fat if you eat too much food, which of course makes your bullets fat as well.
That's
Naturally,
funny.
the bosses are huge, multi-segmented, crazy things which look incredible. There are
Yeah, I
tons of
fight those
memorable
in
and extremely
Subnautica.
impressive scenes in this game. But you might say, hey, Cyberlip has branching paths. That makes it way better than crappy old Metal Slug 3. Well, Metal Slug 3 also has branching paths. They're just handled much more
Damn,
seamlessly
that
than
does
Cyberlip
look
does it.
like really
There
good.
are also many incredible weapons to use, and almost all of them are fun. You even get to play part of the game as a horizontal shooter. Is that not good enough? Well, you get to play part of it as a vertical shooter as well. That's still not good
Fighting
enough? Well, you even get to
UFOs?
swim and shoot things as debris is falling on you from above. There's just so much going on everywhere in this game. Even the sound is excellent and full of energy, with mostly top-notch sound quality.
Damn.
Seriously, you'd be absolutely blown away by this game if you were able to play it when Cyberlip was the hot new thing. If you told a Neo Geo player back then that this game was running on the Neo Geo 2,
That's like
they'd
the
believe
one
it. They'd
console
also
I
think
never
that the Neo
had.
Geo 2 was way more powerful than the
Neo
one they had,
Geo.
which was running Cyberlit. Metal Slug 3 may or may not be your favorite game in the series, but when it comes to the Neo Geo, I feel that overall it's the most technically impressive in most areas. So do yourself a favor and ignore all of the reasonably priced compilations that this game comes on. Get yourself $4,000, a Neo Geo, and experience this game today.
Only play it on the original hardware. No matter the cost. Damn. That is some very, very projectile blood vomiting.
Here's Road Rash on the original Game Boy.
I love
This
Road
motorcycle
Rash.
brawler started
I
off on the Genesis and
loved
ended up
Road
on
Rash
all of the
on the
different
Genesis.
platforms, except for the ones that it didn't, which was most of them at the time. The only Nintendo system it arrived on was the Game Boy here. And for a Game Boy game, it puts on a pretty good show.
That
the object
is
of the game
fairly
is to come in
impressive.
third place or better on each track, beat up the other racers if you want, and avoid crashing your bike. This version feels a little slow compared to the original games, but is still quite responsive.
Still, that is
The road
very
full of hills
impressive.
and it adjusts its perspective as you go left or right. The objects aren't extremely choppy or anything. Hell, even the sky has clouds that give the illusion that they're moving as you travel forward in most stages. The Genesis simply wasn't powerful enough to have forward-moving clouds, but it's on the Game Boy here. Stupid weak-ass Genesis, why do you even exist? When you get knocked off of your bike, you can run around in any direction that you want. Though if you do this for too long, you're probably going to lose the race. But here it is, a Game Boy.
Well, I had
game that
no
lets you
idea
run
this
around
was
in
on
3D
Game Boy.
space.
God damn,
The
that's
graphics aren't
very
totally
impressive.
perfect though. Eagle-eyed gamers might be able to spot some differences if they see it side by side with the Genesis game. Take a guess, can you tell which is which?
I don't know.
Well, did you guess
Oh,
correctly?
shit.
Still,
Maybe
this
next
version
time.
is plenty fine for what it is. The music is pretty simple, but I'm sure there are more than a few people who likely prefer this version of the music compared to the more twangy Genesis originals.
Hey, don't shit on the Genesis sound chip.
There's not much more to say about this one other than what else I have to say. Most of the game is here. Win all 5 tracks, move on to longer tracks, buy faster bikes, and all that. For a version of Road Rash,
I kinda wanna
it's
play
pretty
this
good.
now.
It's not as good as the Game Gear version, but at least you can play it longer since the Game Boy doesn't eat up batteries as fast.
Yeah.
So if you're in the back of your parents' car
loved
while they're
Sonic
driving
Triple
across
Trouble on
country
Game Gear.
vacation you absolutely don't want to
And,
go on, this
Sonic
is the version of Road Rash
Chaos.
that I recommend you bring with you to help keep your sanity during the whole ordeal.
Yeah, I had no idea this was on Game Boy. Like, I love my Game Boy. That is just incredibly impressive. Holy shit.
I was pretty amazed when I finally got around to playing this next one. I didn't import it initially due to how oversaturated the title was in the media at the time. Anyway, check it out. It's Street Fighter II Champion Edition for the PC Engine, also known as the TurboGrafx
Interesting.
16.
I had
This
mine
is a
on
one-on-one fighting game where the objective is to beat up your opponent before they beat you.
So I had Street Fighter 2. That was my first fighting game on Super Nintendo. And then I thought it was the greatest fucking thing ever when I saw that they had Championship Edition on Genesis. Because you could be Balrog, Vega, Sagat, and Bison, right? It was the 4. Yeah, it was those. I'm pretty sure. Like, you could be the boss characters. Like, what the fuck? This is the most insane thing ever. And then they started coming out with, like, Street Fighter 2 Turbo and all of that, and then the Alpha stuff. And I never really got back into Street Fighter until, I guess, Street Fighter 4. That's when I really got back into it.
You up. Pretty simple, and I'm
I used
sure
to play
we
the
all
hell
know
out
how
of
these games work. Sadly, this was
OG
only released
Street
in
Fighter
Japan
2.
because why would we be graced with such an excellent port on the TurboGrafx or Turbo Duo? And this
Chun-Li.
is an excellent port.
That's been my main
Most of the graphical
for like
assets in
30
this one are
years
based
or
on the
however
Super
long.
Nintendo version of the game. Need I remind you that the PC Engine is a wimpy 8-bit console that has absolutely no business among the mighty 16-bit giants like the Genesis and Super Nintendo? Well, this game
That's
made
funny.
it its business and even shows them up in some ways. This one was originally being
Chun-Li,
planned
hell
as a
yeah.
combination Hue card and CD game. That's supposedly the reason the game comes in a dual-sized case. But NEC and developer Capcom decided that they wanted everyone to play this, no matter if they had a CD drive or not, just as long as you lived in Japan. Remember how R-Type on the PC Engine had to be divided into 2 parts because the Hue card could only hold 2 megabits?
Yeah.
Well, this game says...
I think I did play it in the
and comes on a
arcade
Hue
too.
card 10 times the size of that. Everything that can be expected to be here is here. This is the Champion Edition of the game, so that means
there
the
it
4
is,
boss characters are selectable. The
That
animation
blew
certainly
my
isn't as good as
mind.
the arcade, but it's still plenty good.
I always
They're
wanted to
large and
be
edgy.
like, I wanted to be so good. Yeah, yeah, that was the first time we'd ever gotten anything like that on a like a console, at least like to that caliber. Street Fighter fucking took over the world. It's when Street Fighter 2 came out, as far as like consoles. I remember wanting to get good with Vegas so bad, but like he's so difficult to do his moves and stuff. I just never could. I think Vega's so fucking badass. Probably because I was really into like X-Men at the time. And I thought Vega kind of had that, you know, he had that claw. So he's kind of like Wolverine or whatever.
Rarely any flicker. When it does happen, it's only the shadows that disappear briefly. You probably won't even notice. Since the game is based on
That's
the Super NES
impressive.
port, that means it runs in letterboxed mode with rather large black bars. But since
Fight.
the 16-bit ports of this game all do the same thing, you certainly can't hold it against this version. It's just a weakness of the Super Nintendo itself that just kind of transferred everywhere else. The backgrounds all look great, and it even has the cool line-scrolling floors to give it some
Didn't
depth.
they forgive me if I don't know my like lore or whatever, but didn't they switch the names of Balrog and Sagat like from what they originally were? And there was like some purpose that they did that for. Vega was cool. They had a weakened player character for balance. Yeah, for sure.
The ceiling even has some line scrolling in the final stage. Look at that, you don't mess with the PC Engine. About the only thing that's missing here are the overlapping layers of parallax scrolling. But really, even the mighty
it looks
3DO has
really
this
good.
exact same issue. At least the PC Engine has an
I remember, like, whenever I found out, because, like I said, I had only played the Championship Edition, and then I was out of it for a long time. And when I came back into Street Fighter, and I saw that they had given Chun-Li, like, a Kikoken, like, a fireball, effectively, that shit blew my mind, too. It's like, Chun-Li has a fireball now? What?
excuse. Stupid 3DO.
Bison was
As
the
a
boss.
result, the much beloved fence in Zangief's stage is missing. And the floor seems to slide under the elephants in this stage.
Oh,
You know
okay.
what this
Yeah, I
game
knew it was
does
something
have?
like that.
Better colors than the Genesis version. Keep in mind that the Genesis is a proper 16-bit system, and it even has blast processing.
Yeah. There. You're right. It shows it right there, because that's Vega.
Yet it gets outclassed in the colors department by the older PC Engine here. Even the sound is impressive. The music sounds like the pleasant buzzes and hums that the console usually does, but that's really not a complaint at all. It sounds nice.
Viper.
And the voice quality is excellent. In
Yeah,
fact, they
there it
sound
is.
way better than the voices in the Genesis version.
You win. Perfect.
Perfect.
You win. Perfect.
And you know what? I'd say
Man,
they sound a little
Capcom
better than the
was
Super
so good
Nintendo
back
voices
then.
as well. They sound less muffled, though maybe a bit more quiet.
Yeah.
Round 2.
Yeah, probably,
There are also
for
more
sure.
voices than the Super Nintendo
It was
version,
Balrog,
at least the
yeah.
first one released on that console anyway. There were even a couple
Makes
of
my
different
brain hurt.
6-button controllers released for the console to let you play the game.
Shit, I got a
properly.
fight
They
stick
work great
around
for
here. I paid a fuckload of money for my fight stick, and I modded it and everything. Like, I was really big into fighters back in college. With Street Fighter 4, and my favorite fighting series is Soul Calibur. I think Soul Calibur should get more respect than it does. I love Soul Calibur. Easily my favorite fighting series.
the most part. I don't think anyone expected this port to be this good back when it was first announced. Sadly, I had to wait over a decade to finally play it, but you don't have to. This also happens to be the best portable version of this game for the time if you had a PC Engine GT or a Turbo Express and an adapter. I'm glad that the console was able to do this game justice and show
I
everyone
haven't
it's not
played
as
Street
weak as
Fighter
many people probably
6.
thought that it was.
I don't really know if... I guess people are liking it. I haven't heard anything, like, bad about it. And I'd never played 5. Well, that may be a lie. I may have played it over at somebody's house for, like,
Here
a
is
little bit.
Batman Returns for the Sega CD. Holy crap, who knew the Sega CD had games that took actual advantage of the hardware? I've covered Soulstar.
I had the monstrosity. I had the old Sega Genesis with the Sega CD and the 32X. It looked like a goddamn transformer, especially like I had a Game Genie too, and then you'd put like all that together, and then the Game Genie and the 32X, and then the Sonic and Knuckles thing, and then Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. So you do the Game Genie codes to get like infinite lives and stuff. It was ridiculous. The poor Sega Genesis was on life support. Like trying to make it through its end days before Sega Saturn came out. Man, they hooked that Genesis up to so many like ridiculous contraptions.
Sega CD in a Pushing Hardware Limits episode, but I believe that Batman Returns here needs to be discussed in the series as well. We won't be looking at the horrible platforming sections that are on the disc. Thankfully, these can be turned off, and nobody should ever play them. They don't deserve to be played. But these driving segments, oh man!
I hear a lot of people really like these driving segments.
Almost everything on the screen at any given time is being scaled, rotated, or both. It really made use of the Sega CD's built-in extra features. In fact, this is one area where Western programmers absolutely outclassed their Japanese counterparts, which was a very rare thing to see happen in the 16-bit era. In Japan, they never really got a handle on the scaling and rotation features, as you see here in F1 Beyond the Limit from Sega themselves, which came out a year after Batman Returns. This was as good as Japan was ever able to do with the machine scaling and rotation abilities, and it's not a very pretty sight. But in Batman Returns, everything is balls to the wall nuts. I mean, look at these buildings. They have sides on them. They're not just flat sprites that move towards you. And no, they're not just drawn that way. The sides change perspective the closer and further you move laterally.
That's actually very impressive.
These are 3D buildings. Well, they really only have two sides, a front and the side that's closest to the road, but that's still extremely impressive. Even the road itself is scaled and it looks great, with excellent hills and curves that don't look weird at all. When you kill an enemy, their vehicle parts fly everywhere and they land on the road, and each part has its own
I had no
rotation
idea about this.
applied.
That's incredibly impressive.
There's never any flicker anywhere. That's because the Sega CD really has no limit at the amount of objects it can put on screen in this manner. It will only slow down, but never flicker or tear. Not games that run in this mode. The only thing being handled normally are the scrolling backgrounds. Well, actually, some stages do feature rotating things. Nothing has been left out. So, could the Neo Geo do this game? No. No, absolutely it could not. Could the Super Nintendo? Nope. Well, maybe it could with the Super FX2 chip, but we've never seen it handle this many things simultaneously.
It would go at like 2
I'd
frames a
love to see it
second.
try just out of curiosity.
Like
the
Star
special
Fox.
effects in this one are courtesy
And I
of
love
this
BOG
genius,
Star
John O'Brien
Fox.
of Malibu Interactive.
But it,
he understood how to get this kind of
it was
performance
kinda
out of the
rough.
system, something even its designers seemed clueless on. Unfortunately, the game is too hard for you. Yes, you specifically. You can't beat this without cheating. You're not good enough. Don't feel bad though, not many people on the planet are. I do wish that the game
now I
want
to go see a speed run of it.
Special effects like these were why I was excited for the Sega CD in the first place. Far too few games took advantage of these special features, and far fewer even
Sega CD
bothered to
had
use
some
them well.
good shit on it. Most of it wasn't, but it did have some good stuff. Because we had Sonic CD, obviously, and then we had Lunar. The Lunar RPGs made their way over here. Game design is about making... No, actually, you're 100% right. I say that all the time, and I also say it about music. Like, I very firmly believe that if you think about it, like, old school music was so catchy. Like, it was so catchy, and I think that is by design of them being limited. They had to make catchy music. Now, you like all these games, you can get full orchestras and stuff and make it all big and grandiose and everything, but a lot of games now don't have catchy tunes. They're over embellished and everything like that. Oh yeah, it's sweet. I was playing Fantasy Star. I know it's not like those, but I loved Fantasy Star Online. Actually, Fantasy Star Online is probably the game that I've played most in my life. I don't know how many thousands of hours I lost to that game, especially when the GameCube version came out. But I do love the old school ones as well. I'd like to go back to Fantasy Star 4.
While we're here, let's also take a quick look at the Sega CD version of The Adventures of Batman and Robin. This one is based on the cartoon and features only driving levels. The graphics don't look quite as nice as Batman Returns, but I think that's largely because of the artwork and the color palette they chose. But it's all still very, very impressive. Buildings still have sides that exist in 3D space. Even the bridge suspenders have 3D sides to them. Next time you drive across a bridge in real life, think about the adventures of Batman and Robin on the Sega CD and how it's just as good.
I have a lot of experience with that, but that's because I went to college and physicist and all that, so I have a lot of experience with oscillators and shit like that. But to not have any banked sounds and having to make your own sounds and stuff with maybe a basic arpeggiator, it's very impressive. That's why the Mini Moog is so hotly wanted. They did fucking fantastic synthesizers.
It is what you're experiencing. And yes, John O'Brien is responsible for culling the performance out of the machine once again.
Nice.
This
John
game is
O'Brien's
even less fun than
champ.
Batman Returns, but it still kept my interest back in the day because I'm a graphics whore. Well, a special effects whore anyway. There might be a few other Sega CD games that I'll have to mention in future editions of games that push hardware limits.
Sega CD had some good shit. 32X, maybe less so. And then you had the rare
This next game
32X Sega CD games where you had to have
close
both.
to a dozen, I don't know, but it absolutely deserves a mention in this series of episodes. This is Thunder Force 4 for the Genesis.
Oh,
so in North
yeah.
America, people know it as Lightning Force. That's right, someone at Sega of America thought it would be cute to call this Lightning Force. Hey, it wasn't cute, it was dumb. I hope you got fired. But knowing Sega of America, they probably got promoted. Anyway, it's about time I mentioned this one in a Pushing Hardware Limits episode. It completely deserves it. Thunder Force 2 was awesome. Thunder Force 3 was way better. But Thunder Force 3 was also very short and easy, just like my... never mind. Well, Thunder Force 4 here compensates for all of that. Hell, the boss of the first stage alone is harder than all of the bosses in Thunder Force 3 combined. Don't worry too much though, even though the game is really tough, it is quite doable. The premise is still the same, shoot enemies and don't die. If you follow both of these steps,
I haven't really played a lot of these shooters,
a lot longer than the previous entries in
but
the
I know the
series,
Genesis
as
has
it
a
has 10
crap
stages
load
and
of them.
longer stages as well. Halfway through the game, your ship gets a mod. This
Thank
lets a beam
goodness.
charge up when you're not firing for a powerful attack that looks like it kind of hurts. I love how
Yeah,
your
I
ship
can-
recoils
yeah, I
when you
believe that.
fire it. Each stage has an assistant manager in the middle that you'll have to fight, as well as an end boss. Technosoft went all out on this game, and they pushed the console much harder than they ever have before. First of all, they went absolutely nuts with the parallax scrolling.
Oh yeah, I know the
first
music
stage
is
here
fucking
often
amazing.
cited as an example of fantastic parallax scrolling on the console. I mean, just look at all
That
of these
is
layers.
very
The
impressive.
graphics all over are outstanding. Excellent enemy designs and great use of color as well. Hell, they even made a boring space stage look awesome. Unless they're shooters, space stages are usually just black with a few scrolling dots here and there.
My favorite shooter
Microsoft
is
decided that real
Ikaruga,
artwork would be a nice touch.
and it is
The bosses
hard.
are
I've never
always
beaten
large and
it,
sometimes have
but I
many
love
different
playing it.
segments that need to be destroyed before you can wear them down and finally kill them. Even the high score input screen has 3 different musical selections depending on how well you did, and you can even control the direction that you're flying through the stars. They paid so much
That's
attention
cool.
to everything here. The action is always intense, and you can tell when it pushes the console hard because it gets...
See, it's little things like that that make a good game a great game. Whenever you already have a good game and you put those little flourishes in the game, like having different music, you know, if you're first, second, or third place, or being able to fuck around with the loading screens and stuff, that's just those little touches really can elevate a game.
Pretty slow. But just like the Gradius games, you're probably going to be thankful for the slowdown in a lot of these cases as it helps you avoid shots. And of course, the music is pretty neat as well.
This looks fucking
I'm
amazing.
underselling the music a bit? Yeah, I agree.
This looks
I think
fun
I
as
am,
shit.
because the music here is some of the best on the console.
We need Truxton. That's what we really need.
Technosoft games always have great music, but the music in this one will turn your blood into gasoline.
I love the Genesis sound chip. The bass, so good.
You're missing out if you don't listen to this one in stereo. Overall, this is a top-notch package, and somehow they managed to squeeze everything into only a
There is something like
That
very
alone is pretty
distinct
incredible.
about Genesis music that I fucking love. Oh shit!
Here's Soul Calibur 3 on the PlayStation 2
Love
from
it.
Namco.
I love it.
This
is when they
originally
introduced
only a
my
PlayStation
main
2
character.
exclusive. The GameCube and Xbox were
There
both
she
just
is.
so pathetically underpowered to handle this beacon of graphical mastery. In fact, if you take this disc and put it...
Me and my friends, so we used to come over, or they used to come over, and we would play Soul Calibur 2, and that was I think that was the first time where, like, we all got so good, like, knowing our character, and we also got so, see, I have to check that out. But, we got so good at Soul Calibur 2, like, we could read each other. Like, we knew how each other, like, played. We were, at least in our group, like, very, very high skill. Like, none of us were better than the other. But in that led to so much shit talking. There were times when my friends at the time would, like, leave my house fucking furious because I beat them, because I always played Link in Soul Calibur 2. They were fucking furious. Oh, is it? Okay. I didn't know that's what it was called. But then Soul Calibur 3 came out, and then we switched to that. I'm like, oh my god. And then they got Tira. Tira's my main in Soul Calibur. Streets of... Yeah, oh my gosh. Streets of Rage is good. You know, there's a song that I heard recently that made me think of Streets of Rage, and it's by shit, what's her name? She did, like, she was real popular in the 90s, and then she came out with some recently new music. I was like, what the fuck? She's still making music? Is Kylie Minogue, I think. This... Shit, sorry, that's loud. This sounds like Streets of Rage music. Like, is that not Streets of Rage? Like, I'm pretty fucking sure that's very, very similar to, like, the opening of Streets of Rage 2. That opening stage. Yeah, at least that opening part sounds exactly like Streets of Rage 2 to me.
This is a one-on-one fighting game where the object
look,
is to
Tira.
win instead of lose. This certainly is
Yeah,
far
the
from
object-
my favorite game in the series, but it's still lots of fun. I think the
Love
fact
it.
that it was limited
Fucking
to the
love
PlayStation
Soul
2 kind
Calibur.
of made me think that it was a weaker entry, especially after the amazing Soul
80s,
Calibur.
yeah,
But
it's like
believe it
late
or not,
80s
this
and
one
90s,
still
yeah.
really holds its own despite being limited to the most lackluster hardware of the big three platforms of the time. The backgrounds look outstanding.
The big
and are
one was
fully
can't
3D
get you out of
modeled.
my head.
As far as PlayStation 2 fighting game
Criminally
backgrounds go,
catchy.
these here are only bested by Tekken 5. And the only reason for that really is that the flat ground that the characters fight on here seem a bit plain in comparison. The character models
Cool.
are all incredibly detailed as well. Everything is locked at 60 frames per second, and I haven't seen it drop any frames during actual gameplay. But then again, I could just be stupid. To top it all off, the game has a progressive scan mode as well as a widescreen mode, both of which you're looking at here.
Hell yeah.
On the audio sides of things, there's not much new here that stands out. Both of the previous games had more interesting music all around, but what's here is still very pleasant.
Man.
We also have a few Dolby
I
Pro Logic
fucking
hosts that
love
encode the stereo
Soul
signal
Calibur.
to surround.
Yeah, yep.
Lastly, it's a THX certified game. What in the flying hell does that mean? Well, basically
Means it's
THX would
certified,
have people
damn
who
it.
consult during development of the game on studio acoustics and make sure there's consistent picture and sound quality throughout. Do I personally think that helped this game in any perceivable way? No, I do not. This was back when THX would cash a check from anybody. It was after THX was sold mostly to Creative Labs. They weren't worth much at the time, as Creative only paid $8 million for their 60% share of the company. But hey, some game companies and maybe even some consumers thought it was cool to have a THX logo on a game, so it happened from time to time.
That was like the huge thing,
Soul Calibur 3 here
THX.
would later be released to the arcades with bug fixes and some rebalancing. Trust me, the game greatly benefited from that rebalancing. The PlayStation 2 version here is still excellent.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
very
absolutely.
impressive visuals and sound for the
I do like 6, but it definitely hasn't gotten the love that it should. Especially for me, it was after playing like Mortal Kombat with the story mode, which is just like nothing beats it in terms of like fighting games, just how they pulled that off. And then Soul Calibur 6 comes out, like the story is told through like static screens with text. Man, it just, that sucks. I love like the actual fighting of the game though. Like that's great, but they really got to put some effort into their story because they have a really cool story, but they just don't put in the effort, which is sad.
You win.
And here we have prehistoric
Ooh,
Man
another
on
Game
the
Boy
Game
game.
Boy from
Titus.
Did you just say tits?
Yeah, so
Shut
this
up.
one is an action
God damn it.
platformer which had versions on the real consoles. But as so often happened, a Game Boy version was made as well. You're a caveman who can
Always
jump,
gotta have the
attack
Game
with his
Boy
club,
version.
and collect things. The object of the game is to complete it. Unfortunately, the collision detection isn't very
The
fun,
object
mainly
of the
because
game
you
is to
have
complete
a
it.
giant hitbox. It just doesn't feel right. You can tell us by Western developers. So yeah, this isn't a particularly good game, but that's not why we're here today.
It does
is
look pretty
No,
damn
We're
good.
here for the parallax scrolling that rivals 16-bit consoles. Almost. This really is quite good for a Game Boy title. It
Oh,
overlaps
damn, it
in all
is.
directions as it moves. No herky-jerky weirdness of poorly animated background tiles, nor flicker which would be caused if they had used sprites for one of the layers. The truth is that this is done by animating and adjusting certain background tiles to give it the illusion of depth, which is why the far background doesn't seem to have much detail. This eats up
Sure.
a lot of memory, because each of those tiles back there need to have versions with the graphics in any one of up to 64 different positions to provide the proper
Damn.
illusion. The total number of tile variations is probably way lower in 64 in this case, but it still needs to be high enough to give it a smooth look when scrolling.
That is
And then
impressive.
each tile needs to be programmed correctly so that
I've never
the game
played
knows
this
which one
game.
to display when. It takes a lot of effort to do this, and yes,
I
it
wouldn't
is
mind
very
having like a
appreciated.
retro Game Boy
But
night.
you know what else takes a lot of effort? Making a game that's fun to play. Sadly,
Yeah,
they could have
that's
put more
when-
effort into that part of the game, but overall,
That's
it's
when,
still quite impressive.
like you said earlier, creativity and like knowing how to program for a system. It's just like you could tell the quality of people that knew what they were doing. Now it's like any moron can download Unity in a asset pack and then
And
put
there you go,
something
more
out on
games
Steam.
that push hardware limits. How do you feel
Yeah.
about that? Is it cruel to ask consoles to go beyond what was originally envisioned for them? I mean, consoles are people too. Anyway, horrible jokes aside, what are some games that you feel push console limits, and how do they push them?
I like
Let me know. In the
Joe.
meantime, thank you for watching GameSack.
I love GameSack. I actually haven't caught their past few. Yeah, I haven't watched this one either. 2D games for modern consoles. PC? Yeah, I mostly play on PC myself. PC and Switch. Because, well, Yuzu's taken down and Rejinx isn't super great. But yeah, I've basically exclusively game on PC.
Hello and welcome to GameSack. It's once again time to check out some 2D games for modern.
Oh, why does he have?
2D games are freaking awesome.
Why does he have
Yes,
Zelda
even though the PlayStation 5
in the back?
is like
Wand of
many years
Gamelon.
old now, I'm still including the PS4 in this episode because, well, still actively being supported.
I have those
Though this
games.
first game
I
certainly
have a
pushes its
CDI and I have those
older,
games.
crappier platform.
I'm gonna say something interesting. I think, as much as people shit on those CDI Zelda games, they unironically have some pretty damn good music that slaps. Like, I truly will die on that hill. Some of the songs are pretty, like, they're pretty good. They're not Zelda-like, but they are catchy. Oh yeah,
This is RZ from CDI
I
Software.
forgot. I was gonna get
CDI?
this.
It's available.
I wanted to play this.
PlayStation 4 and 5, the Xbox Series X and S.
Oh, I'm
and the
so
impressive
getting that.
celebrated Microsoft Windows operating system on PC. I'm playing on the Nintendo Switch here, but all versions should be basically identical. This is a side-scrolling action-adventure platformer where you control a girl named RZ. Yes, it's generally a Metroidvania, but it doesn't feature a map. Basically,
I
evil
love
was
me
trapped and now
Metroidvanias.
escaped because if it hadn't, there wouldn't be a game, so there you go. You have to take care of the
I
evil baddies that are
completely
scattered
forgot
around.
all about this game.
During my incredibly deep research about this game on Wikipedia, I discovered that this is a spiritual sequel to the Zelda CDI games. Remember those and their wacky animations that were so bad?
I could
that
eat
they
an
were sharp?
Octorok.
Yeah, this game has very similar animations whenever you interact with most characters.
Dude, I want to play it
There
so
is
bad.
a lot of it.
Any news?
The forces of evil underestimated
I gotta play this tonight.
Well, they can join the club.
I want to play it so bad.
All of this going in. Yes, even without checking Wikipedia first, if you can believe that. Turns out I know some of the people who helped make this game. So,
That's
having said
awesome.
that, I'll just end this unbiased review by saying that this is the best game ever and that you should buy 18 copies on each platform today. Actually, make that 19. Okay, I'm just kidding about that last part. 18 is fine.
Oh my gosh, I can't
So
believe I
Rosette can
forgot
jump
about
and
this.
slash with her sword. She eventually gets items that she can
It
use
looks like
bombs, which are
Shantae.
activated with the X button on the Switch, or magic that she can use with the A button.
I think
and
I have
switch
every
magics with the
Shantae
R
game on
button.
the Switch.
Enemies that shoot
Those
projectiles
are fun.
a huge
I like them.
annoyance early in the game. Thankfully, one of the first things you find lets you deflect enemy projectiles with the L button. Like most adventure platformers, you can't go everywhere right off the bat. You
Oh,
need to
we're
find
totally
things to
playing
unlock
this
your way
tonight.
forward in many places. For example, red bricks can be removed with red magic, and blue bricks can be removed with blue magic. But in order to get these magics, usually you
Don't
need to
mind
hunt
me.
first, and then they'll give you
I am
stuff.
buying
That's
the
right,
game
this game is
completely
largely
legally.
about fetch quests. I would say that most of these are not optional. It's just how you need to proceed through most of the game. That said, you'll be
Oh
rewarded in
god,
each area
I'll have to
more than
download
once
it in a
for
little
sure.
bit.
The gameplay
It'll fuck
feels
up my
quite solid
stream.
and mostly fair. In the normal mode, you don't get any health back unless you exit a stage, but the easy mode has enemies drop health items for you. I haven't tried the easy mode. I only play games on normal, like a true champion. Anyway, you don't really need the health items. Yes, you will die, probably a lot in some areas, but these areas are
That game
never
looks
unfair.
pretty
You'll
good.
start over at the place you entered the current screen, like a doorway or screen change or whatever. Some of the screens that are quite large feature a checkpoint, which is a good idea, especially early on. Eventually, you get a double jump, and like any game, that always makes the gameplay feel even better.
Hell yeah. You get a triple...
You'll need
There
to
was a
collect
game
lots
I
of
just
things to
played
open
where you
up
got a
areas.
triple jump.
You also have an expanding town with places
Fallen
you can
Leaf.
visit. It's about a 4-hour game.
Highly
so
recommended.
A little
That's a
longer if
great
you want to
game.
find everything. That might seem short to a lot of people, but I'm good with it. The graphics feature some nice sprite work with good animation, but the big star during gameplay are the backgrounds. In fact, some of the art style is similar to those Zelda CDI games, and that might be because they have one of those games' artists. The animated cutscenes are also outstanding, even though they're incredibly cheesy. I never skip these animations
Well,
unless
that's
I've
the
seen
whole
them like
point.
3 or 4 times already, at least. It's so rare to see anything like this these days.
Don't look so blue, princess.
I'm
The music
excited.
is also pretty good.
I am
sometimes
excited.
even extremely good.
All right, I dig it.
So, is there anything that this game gets wrong? Well, yeah, I do have some nitpicks. First, I found it extremely tough to jump from ladder to ladder. It's incredibly difficult to do. Fortunately, you don't really need to do it much, so this is a very minor complaint. Also, when switching between items like from the bomb to the lamp or whatever, you need to pause the game and go into the screen to select them and then exit the screen.
Oh,
wish
I hate
could
that.
just fast cycle through my items with the right analog stick. That would be awesome.
That was like the worst
Next,
part
you
of Link's
can't jump
Awakening
down from a platform. You
on
can
the
only go
OG
down
Game
by
Boy.
going off the edge. This is likely because it tries to be like the 2 Zelda CDI side-scrollers which use up to jump. There's no way to jump down through a platform with those kind of controls. In fact, you can even select classic controls here where up
No.
jumps if you hate yourself.
Yeah,
Also,
no,
down plus jump
don't
is
do that.
used for evading in this game, but that's a move I rarely use. There are also a couple of areas where the background art is spaced a bit awkwardly, like here. You need to hit the 2 switches to get the fairy to appear, but there's no way you can jump to the middle tree from the other trees. So they had to extend some invisible ground collision beyond the tree to make sure that you could.
That's
Who would
annoying.
know to walk off the tree like that? There
Donkey
aren't very
Kong
many different
Country
types of
players
enemies,
would
and
know.
The final boss fight might just be the easiest boss fight ever in gaming. Some of the voices could also use some level balancing work. The game's biggest failure, though, is that it's fun. How is this supposed to be an homage to the CDI if it's enjoyable? Sorry, but suspension of disbelief can only go so far. It's like owning a Ford Pinto that doesn't explode, or a Boeing airplane in tip-top shape. Anyway, for real, check this game out. It's only $20 digitally. Unfortunately, it is published by Limited Run Games, even digitally, a company that I consider rather questionable.
Really?
But the
What
developer
did
does
Limited
deserve
Run
your love,
do?
and I think you'd like
I
it.
thought everyone loved them. Did they have like a big scandal or something? Yeah, we're definitely going to be playing this later.
I've had this next game for what feels like forever, but I never featured it on the show. Well, it's time to give it its due. It may be an oldie, but it's definitely a goodie. Check it out.
Hyper Light
This is
Drifter.
Hyper Light Drifter from Heart Machine. It originally came out in 2016.
Do I have
it's on
this
the
game?
PlayStation
I feel
4,
like I have it.
Xbox One, Switch, Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, and Android. This
feel like
is
I have it on the
PlayStation 4
Switch.
version here. This one is an overhead adventure game. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world of unknown origins. You play as the exciting Hyper Light Drifter. The intro shows that you were fighting some pretty nasty bad guys and other probably not pleasant things happened.
I don't like this kind of pixel art. And I think it's because it's not outlined. It looks very odd. I really don't like it. And there's a lot of games that use it. And I can't really put my thumb on it, and that's the closest I can get, is that it doesn't have like a distinct outline of these things. Like a normal sprite
He can
would.
slash with his sword and shoot with his gun. You have limited ammo, but it will refill as you slash enemies with your sword. You can also upgrade your weapons and abilities. He also has a dash, and you'll be using this a ton. It does more than simply dash. It also allows him to cross small chasms. You also get to cough pink blood from time to time because that's an
Oh, that's
attractive thing
fun.
to see your character do in a video game. In fact, there's lots of pink blood in this, so I'm fairly certain this game takes place on the Klingon homeworld. The fighting is generally
That's a
pretty
deep
good,
cut.
though it can be crazy tough sometimes. You can try as many times
That's
as you'd
funny.
like, though, and some of these situations will take several attempts to get past. There's no dialogue in the game at all. The characters speak to you in images depicting what happened to them. Some characters will give you new places to go on the map.
I don't like that shit, what was I gonna say? I think that's when Lego games went downhill, is when they started adding in like voiceover lines from the movies or whatever that they're spoofing, because they used to tell everything like completely mute, and they would, pantomime and do stuff, and that gave it its charm. But like then they started adding in, like I said, the voice lines. Like, damn it, it kind of like takes me out of it.
This world is quite big. Each area is pretty large, and then when you get to the edge, it'll fade out and go on to a new area. The game automatically saves pretty much every time it does this, and at other points, like just beating an onslaught of enemies. You have a little robot buddy who follows you around, which lets you scan things. This is basically how you interact with anything that needs it. You use him to pick up items, activate doors, warps, and things like that. Overall, the game controls very well, and exploring is incredibly fun. I kept getting sidetracked by new areas to explore instead of thoroughly searching the place I was at, and then I'd have to go back. This is mainly because I play like an idiot. Still, this is a rather nice problem to have if I'm being honest. The game doesn't give you much to go on as you play, and this is clearly
Maybe I don't have this. There's a game I know I have, though, that looks incredibly similar.
So backtracking isn't as tedious as it otherwise would be. I haven't finished this one yet, but people are reporting it to be about a 10-hour game on average. I really like it when a game doesn't feel the need to be 60 hours or more.
Yeah,
there are so many games in this world and only so much time.
I'd rather have a good short game than a mediocre long game.
The graphics use pixel art, as you can see, but
Any
apply
day of the
some
week.
higher resolution colors on top of that in many areas. Everything looks great and quite unique, and it all feels very desolate. The music is a disaster piece. Literally, that's the composer's handle. It's mostly minimalistic, but it does really fit the game. It consists of synthesized instruments that totally lend themselves to this world. In fact, at times, it almost feels like this game was composed by Vangelis.
It sounds like Axiom Verge.
So, is there anything I can complain about here? Honestly, not much. Perhaps the shops could be less confusing, as I really don't understand what the currency is here. It seems to be overall game progress? Not quite sure. And maybe it could use some sweet scaling and rotation like the Sega CD had. Or maybe some Mode 7 like the Super Nintendo had. Everyone loves those things. Now,
It kind of reminds me of Fez as well.
10, but it
I mean,
is
it's not
quite
the same like
enjoyable, and I
viewpoint,
demand that you
but
play it immediately. Or just, whenever you can.
I don't know. The art style just, I don't know. It's definitely not my favorite. What is
Here's
this?
Gunlord X from NG Dev Team. It's on
Never heard
the
of it.
Switch and PlayStation 4. This is the Switch version. Actually, it was originally an unofficial aftermarket title for the Neo Geo, then later released on the Dreamcast. This port is upgraded from the Dreamcast version, and it has some new content. The field of view is also wider. It lacks the
I've
occasional
never heard of
flicker
this
from the Neo
game.
Geo version, and there's
Looks
basically
fun.
no slowdown
Looks like
ever.
Contra.
I covered the Dreamcast version in a previous episode, but in modern times, the Switch or the PlayStation 4 version is the one to get. And you should, because it's only $10 or so. If you're not aware, this game is a true homage to Turrican. See, here's Mega Turrican running on the Genesis.
Huh.
Now, here's Gunlord X. Mega Turrican again, and back to Gunlord X. So, you see the similarities, don't you? No? Okay, here's the first Turrican, Gunlord X, Mega Turrican, Super Turrican, Gunlord X, Super Turrican 2, Universal Soldier on the Genesis, the first Turrican, Gunlord X, McDonald's Treasureland Adventure, Mega Turrican, Turrican, Gunlord X, Mega Turrican, Super Turrican, Sonic the Hedgehog, Gunlord X, Turrican, Super Turrican 2, My Old Camcorder, Universal Soldier again, Mega Turrican, and finally back to Gunlord X. Almost all of the Turrican tropes are here, like the wide beam attack for your special, or rolling up into a ball, like Metroid. But what's fantastic about this one is that you can also shoot up as well as diagonal. This is something I always wished I could do in Turrican games. Basically, you roam the gigantic levels to find
Rolling into a ball like
boss or two
Metroid.
along the way.
You
Stage
got 'em.
2 is a horizontal shooter stage, which is pretty cool, though it is rather short. There are 7 different weapons that you can collect, and you'll be switching them out and powering them up all the time, as it's pretty tough to avoid getting the icon scattered about. That's perfectly fine though. There are also certain parts of some of the stages
This
that will let
does
you
look
climb on
pretty
the wall
fun.
and the ceiling. This game can be quite chaotic, and if you're not careful, it's going to be game over pretty quick. Oh, and I saved the best move for last. That's the Electro Whip thing, which is similar to most Turrican games. You can easily use this by pressing any direction on the right analog stick. It can kill enemies and even weaker enemy fire. It is a lifesaver. It's not as strong as any of your main weapons, but it is so useful that you'll almost want to use it exclusively.
Is it like a level-based game or a Metroidvania? No, it's got to be like a
You have a few
level-based game.
continues, and you can earn more by collecting a bunch of the giant pink gems. When you die and when you continue, you start over pretty much right where you died. Though if it happened whilst fighting an exciting boss, you'll need to begin that fight again. If you run out of all your lives and continues, then you'll have to restart the entire stage over. The graphics are super nice and extremely colorful, with many layers of scrolling in most areas. If you like things with color, then you'll probably love the way this looks. The music is even better, and it would absolutely fit in a proper Turrican game, but it's outstanding on its own right, and it helps make these humongous levels bearable.
I do like the purple and green. Like, you don't see that color combination very often.
About the only complaints that I would have would be the level design. They are just colossal, and that's sometimes exacerbated by how some of the areas are extended for the Switch and PlayStation 4. It can be easy to get lost sometimes, and then you'll need to backtrack. There's no map
It's
at
like
all.
me and Subnautica
Fortunately,
earlier.
There's also no time limit. There are the occasional
That game
indicators
gives me
to point you in the
such
right direction,
anxiety.
though. But you're gonna need to
It's
explore if
fun,
you want to
but-
find all of those giant pink gems. Oh, and I wish the shooter stage was a bit longer. This was just too cool to have it only last a few minutes. Another couple of minutes on the stage would have been great.
Oh yeah, I
This
saw
one's cheap,
Alien
so I definitely
Romulus.
recommend giving
Definitely
it a go.
recommend. It is pretty damn amazing. Damn. The sprite work is amazing. Holy shit.
Alright, I've got two more games to show you, and one of them hasn't even been released yet at the time I'm making this video. Though if you're from the future, it probably has been released. Unless you're not very far in
Where's
the future. 'Cause it's
Buttsworth?
not
He's
coming out
usually here. He's
super
from the
soon or
future.
anything. Well,
He lives in
anyway,
Australia.
First up is a Shantae game, and then we'll get to that one. Here's Shantae and the Seven Sirens from Way Forward.
Hell
It's on
yeah.
the Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, Mac OS, and even iOS. I'm playing on the PlayStation 4 here. PlayStation 4
I
Pro,
love
in
the
fact.
Shantae
Can you
games.
tell? I mean, doesn't everything seem more
I
professional?
need to
I thought I
replay
had
'em.
already covered this game, so I checked on the website, and no, it was the Pirate's Curse. In fact, I've never booted this game up, as I thought I'd already played through it. Nope, this one is much newer, originally being released in 2019. Anyway,
I
as you can see,
think this
for
was a
side-scrolling
game that they were going to release and then they never
another
did,
Metroidvania,
and then
and
like
this one has
20
the
years later
appropriate
they
map.
finally finished
It
it.
plays just like all of the other Shantae games. You attack with your hair. You can buy shampoo and
Oh, yeah,
food
your
to
future
increase the
people
attack
too, that's
strength
right.
And speed. In this game, several other half-genies like yourself have been kidnapped, and now you need to go rescue them. After you do, you gain the abilities of the half-genie that you rescued. This will give you new instant transforms, just like Wonder Boy 3 on the Sega Master System.
Wonder
For example,
Boy is
you can
really
transform
fun.
into this green nuke guy who
I haven't
dashes
heard
across
that
large
name in a
areas
long
and you
time.
can stick to and climb walls. Or
Shantae
you can
is great.
transform into a drill to maneuver through sand areas. That's pretty fun. Once you find a fusion stone, the rescued girls will give you a magic power. To use this, you hold the dance button for a second and then press a direction. This can help you find hidden stuff like platforms to advance, or maybe restore some of your life and do other things. Lastly, this game uses a card system. Don't worry, it's not as bad as it sounds. Basically, it's like Castlevania Aria of Sorrow on the Game Boy Advance. Enemies sometimes drop these cards when you kill them. After
Did Aria of Sorrow do that? I thought it was Circle of the Moon.
you have enough of the same type of card, they can be equipped. They can do all sorts of different things, like make you crawl or climb faster, use less magic points, have more strength, have food items heal you more, and things like that. You have 3 spaces to equip different cards, so choose carefully. Of course, you'll be able to increase the number of hearts you have as well. Some of the dungeons are a touch Zelda-like here and there. For example, you may be trapped in a room until you defeat all of the enemies, or you'll need to find a key to unlock a door. There are also a few puzzle-type elements here and there, but they're not really difficult at all. But they're certainly not unwelcome. And of course, you've got your big, bad boss fights. There are multiple towns to visit in this one, and that adds some variety.
I think he
The
misspoke
control is
there.
quite good. I like the control in RZ a little better, but probably
I don't think
only
Aria
because
of
I just
Sorrow
played that
deals
game,
with
so I was more
cards.
used to it. It's definitely better once you increase the speed of your hair whips. The
It
game
doesn't
is
matter,
longer
but
than RZ,
still.
but it does cost $10 more digitally. You're looking at maybe 8 or 9 hours here. The graphics are excellent with nice scrolling and tons of color. The enemies mostly look familiar if you've played any of the other games, but they look good too. The animation of everything is certainly nice.
I prefer the
There are some animated
like the
cutscenes
pixel
here,
look
usually for the boss
personally.
introductions. They look pretty good and they're fun to watch. The music is also really nice. No Jake Kaufman this time though, curiously. That's okay, the 4 people who worked on the music here did a pretty damn good job.
Man, the Actman put out a really good video of
So
talking
is there
with
anything
a
to bitch
former
about?
Bungie employee.
Yes, but
I
only
watched
very
it
minor things.
earlier
One, there's some
last
loading
night,
time
whenever.
that pops up even in the middle of some dungeon areas.
There's a shit
This
show
is by
going
no
on
means
over
a deal
there.
breaker or anything. It just gets in the way of your groove sometimes. If you die and continue, it also has to load.
Actually,
The cutscenes,
yeah.
at least on my PlayStation 4 Pro, have
I was
some
looking at the
occasional audio
wiki.
drop.
I was looking at the wiki, making sure. But it says like you level up with tactical souls, which I don't. Maybe those are cards. I don't know. But Circle of the Moon definitely was cards. They had the what is it? DSS cards. Yeah. Yeah, actually, you need to take down the video and redo it all.
And relax. Hey! This place is a paradise! We get to stay here for a whole week!
No other audio in the game is affected by this, and it seems weird that it does this, and I don't like it. Also, you can't jump down just like in RZ. Lastly, although the game shows you where you need to go next on the map, it can
Thumbs
be
down the
rather vague
video.
on what you may
You
need
got
to do
the
next sometimes. I get there and it's just this guy.
Game Boy
nothing I can
Advance
do to advance
Castlevania
the
wrong.
situation. You might think this is a good thing though, because that means
It's
you have to
completely
explore
worthless.
more and more to figure it out. Still, this one is pretty fun.
Give
and
him
if
a
you've played
community
any of the Shantae
guideline
games
strike.
before, you should know exactly what to expect. If you haven't, this one is a nice one to try. I did like RZ more though, despite it being much shorter.
Shantae is always a good time. Her original Game Boy game goes for like some ridiculous amount. Let's see. It was like one of the last Game Boy Color games to be released.
This is Transylvania Adventure of Simon Quest from Retroware. This game is an
Yeah, the original one is somebody's selling it for like 750, and a lot of other people like have repros and stuff, but like OG, it is ridiculous. It may not be that much. It's very pricey though.
out yet, much less finished, and right now the target is early to mid 2025. It'll be on PC, of course, but also likely Switch and PlayStation 5 at the very least. And they do plan on physical versions for those two platforms.
Wait, what is this?
I'm playing on it.
The Transylvania Adventure of Simon... Wait, what?
This is Transylvania Adventure of Simon Quest from Retroware. This game isn't out yet, much less finished, and right now the target is early to mid 2025. It'll be on PC, of course, but also likely Switch and PlayStation 5 at the very least, and they do plan on physical versions for those two platforms. I'm playing on
I had
an
no idea
exciting
this
Windows
game
PC here.
was in development.
Anyway, everything you see here
This
is
is the
subject
first
to
I'm
change,
hearing.
but let's look at what they have so far and judge them on it. As you can see, this is an ode to Castlevania II Simon's Quest. It has the towns, the day and
Interesting.
night cycle, the enemies in the towns at night, collecting Dracula parts, and buying new weapons and sub-weapons.
Is it a
But
remake?
it also has a few features from other Castlevania games as well. You play as Simon Quest, yes, that's his name, brother of Johnny, and he's having an adventure in Transylvania. The control is 100% old school Castlevania at this
Yeah.
point. You whip
I mean,
candles and the like for hearts, but you also collect coins.
Clearly
Coins are for
looks
your
like
currency.
Castlevania
Hearts are for
3.
your sub-weapons, just like in every Castlevania game that's not Part 2. You can also collect double and triple icons to use your sub-weapons faster, but they only last for a limited time before they go away. There's also a level and experience system in place similar to the later Metroidvanias.
Interesting.
You can
I don't know
definitely
if I
take a while
like
to
that.
level up in this one. But like any good game that has a leveling system, you're able to find places here and there which make grinding a little easier. You just gotta have places like this. The game also features mansions. Outside of them, you can die all you want, though you will get sent back to the checkpoint. Inside of a mansion, you only have a limited number of lives to get through the entire thing.
So there are
If you run
different
out,
like
you get sent back
mansions. I guess
outside
they're
and
like
you can re-enter
castles.
if you want, starting the mansion
That's
over
interesting.
from scratch. Though you do get to keep your level, your experience earned, hearts, and money. Inside these mansions, you'll often find
I'm
multiple
curious to
routes.
see how it'll compare with oh shit, what's that? Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 1 and 2, because they basically did exactly this, except they didn't base it off of Castlevania 2. It was based off of Castlevania 3. Those games are fucking amazing.
Sometimes you can't even traverse them properly until you come back later. You eventually get some new moves like a sliding attack, which is really fun. Just be careful with it because it's fast. Or how about whip swinging on certain points, just like Super Castlevania 4?
Hell yeah.
Some of these whip jumps take timing that I haven't yet quite mastered.
Now this looks pretty
The
good.
graphics so far, of course, do their best to give you an NES aesthetic with limited colors and funky-looking tiled artwork. But they do break the 8...
That's like the one big thing, because people want to do all these like retro graphics and stuff. Like, oh look, it's all pixelated. That doesn't make it like retro or like NES. You have to limit your palette. That's what makes it look like NES games. Like, you can't use every fucking color under the rainbow. You're never gonna, like, you'll never get that feeling if you do that.
Bit illusion with many layers of parallax scrolling as well as occasional lighting effects. I'm certainly not complaining about that, mind you. The sound and music also does its best to sound like it lives within the confines of the NES. Unfortunately, they didn't do much to break this illusion like offer stereo, but overlapping sounds never cause any of the music to cut out, so there's that. As for the music itself, it's alright. It does have some good moments actually, but I've been told that the music will mostly be redone. They're bringing in some heavy hitters according to Retroware. I don't know who those artists will be, but it'll be interesting to hear for sure. So, what would I improve if I was in charge? Well, first and
It's
foremost,
like Donkey
I'd make
Kong
walking speed a
minecart
little bit
sections.
faster. Simon Quest moves very
Hey, look.
foremost I'm here for sure. So, what would I
This is
improve
what you
if I was
said.
in charge? Well, first and foremost, I'd make the walking speed a little bit faster.
There you go.
Simon Quest moves very
He heard you. He heard you say it looks a bit slow.
slow. It seems even slower than it does on the NES because the screen is wider. If he just went a little faster, it would feel like a breath of fresh air. I also wish the double and triple power-up for the sub-weapons lasted until I died. And then there are tiny little things that don't really matter at all, like why is the moon in front of the clouds here? Last I checked, that's not how the moon works. Ah well, this is shaping up
Yes,
to be
it
a
is. What are
great
you talking about?
Castlevania-like, and I really look forward to seeing how this one turns out in its final form.
Yeah, I'll keep my eye on this one. I'm always down for a good Castlevania-like game. Sweet. That's cool. That's very exciting.
And there you go, more 2D games for modern platforms.
And you said there was another Subnautica coming out, right? Ooh, that's loud. We got more Subnautica 2 teaser images? Wait, what? Is Below Zero not Subnautica 2? I guess not. Let me see what this guy has to say.
Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and a new Subnautica talk. With the impending release of Subnautica 3, as we're currently calling it, since the title is still unknown, we've been waiting for some real details and news, but you might be wondering why this sudden interest now. Well, actually, I've been a fan of the game since early access for the original game. I followed the main updates back when there was literally nothing and they just put in a new area or a proper new biome, but often it was still completely empty. These were the days before there was any story in that game at all. So while I've been a fan of the games for years, it's actually Josh and Cotton who just got into the games, and they've now completed their full playthrough, the series they did for both Subnautica and now Below Zero, which I strongly recommend if you haven't checked it out. But either way, as they've both finished the games now, I've been asked to look into Subnautica 3 and keep an eye on any new news. So what is the Subnautica 3 news? Well, we do have some new confirmations since last time. We know that it is officially in dev, and we know a few more details around that. The initial reveals were completely without fanfare. In fact, all of them haven't really been hyped up that much. It's been
no shit, I didn't know about it.
From the Subnautica team eventually. Our first reveal came all the way back in 2022 though. It was simply that Unknown Worlds, who developed the series, stated that they're looking for a senior narrative designer to, quote, help shape the next game in the Subnautica universe. And so that's the term we've seen thrown around a lot at this point, the Subnautica universe. So very clearly, the events and story of both Subnautica and Below Zero are going to be relevant to the big picture story they're telling. It's just a question of, with those events, are we going to be going somewhere new rather than moving around one planet? But anyway, that job listing was all about working with different groups within the team to help write and design the game narrative. The idea, of course, is to tell a story using in-game mechanics and what they have available. A story that fits with the world and what we can do within that as a game. But that was our first reveal, and it
experience working on character creator features. Experience with other art disciplines. Interesting.
Gave us the confidence to say, yeah, Subnautica 3 is coming.
So here's the thing. If they want somebody to work on a character creator, that means that obviously you're going to make your own character, but you spin the entire game in first person mode. So why would you need that if you never see your character? Probably because it's going to be multiplayer.
Just that we had no idea, the setting, the story, or even the actual name. Just that they're actually working on the next one. And that they now view it as a sort of universe of games. That job listing happened essentially 2 years ago though, so you might imagine there's been some big progress with the game since then, and there is, and they just sort of announced it. And literally, while I made my first Subnautica 3 video, they had another ridiculous casual reveal. The actual release of the game is planned for 2025. Is this a full release or early access? It seems like it was almost an unintentional reveal though, because this information came via
they fucked up. You didn't see that?
Q3. These reports serve as important updates for investors. It lets the investors know the current plans, earnings, expectations, and reasoning. This is the type of stuff that could be vital for an investor. So
man, they canceled. I found this out the other day. There's a game I was looking forward to called Life by You, which is was published or was going to be published by Paradox, the people that did City Skylines and stuff. Yeah, that got canceled. And it's really, really annoying. I completely missed it too. I was looking forward to that game. That was supposed to be like the one to take down The Sims, like Skylines did for SimCity, but not anymore.
They can make informed decisions about that investment. Should they pull out, maintain, maybe invest further? And obviously they want to encourage people to invest further as much as possible. Within this report then, we had some important plans revealed to encourage further investment such as the literal timeline for Subnautica 3's release. During their scaled up plans for game development, they also showed the plans for 2024 and 2026
I've heard about the
releases.
Callisto
And here is where
protocol.
they
I don't
claim
know
the
what
next
it is,
Subnautica
though.
will release in 2025, which certainly seems like a full release, but my opinion has changed on that now. That would mean roughly 4 years of development, but obviously early access plays a huge role in the development of these games. As I said in the introduction, I've been following Subnautica since the original alpha states, and I've seen how long this process would normally take. When we look back at the Subnautica release, we can see it came out late 2014, with Below Zero releasing 5 years later in 2019. But that's not really what happened. The 2014 version of Subnautica was an unfinished game. A massive amount of development went on during its early access period. Loads of alien creatures were added. Tons of areas and biomes that didn't exist initially were added over time, layering it around a sort of circle and then going deep within the planet. Tons of new mechanics and technology actually changed the way the gameplay ended up going, that kind of formula. And a lot of the time I played early access, there wasn't even a story added until much later. So, it wasn't until 2018 that Subnautica truly released as a completed, finished game. The result was a very memorable experience for me, having played through the game so many times in so many different states. Subnautica to me seemed like something that was just a cool idea that they made, and then it became bigger than they expected. You know, the popularity, the amount of people that bought it.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like he's saying, it took a lot longer to develop the other Subnautica games, but by that same measure, you would think that it would be maybe at least a little bit quicker because they already have this stuff in place. Like they've already made these games, so they're not really trying to like completely build the shit from the ground up
Into the early access. That meant they ended up having a lot more budget than maybe they expected, and maybe it allowed them to go harder and go for more ideas, eventually becoming that unique, pretty brilliant game that we have today. I think that's reflected really well when you look at Below Zero, the sequel, and how a lot of people are mixed on that one. The general opinion is that
I've been having
Below
fun.
Zero is fun and cool and a real progression of what the devs can do and how they can tell a story. It did lose a lot of that original heart. That true unknown feeling was somewhat gone. The game was much more on tracks that you simply follow in terms of that story compared to the true chaos of whatever direction you want to go in Subnautica. You're of course following a set character in Below Zero and her story with the fantastic Alan, who, to be fair, steals the show. He's a fantastic character. I actually enjoyed Below Zero and its story more than Subnautica because it was
I'm enjoying
a told
Below
story,
Zero.
but it was the gameplay and the
Like,
experience
easily.
overall
It's
that wasn't
fun.
as innovative and shorter than I would have liked. The setting and big moments were great, but the game just had a much smaller scale, and so of course it was much shorter to play through. And I think that's the key difference there, that word, play through. Rather than being a sandbox adventure that's largely your own, you're playing a set character, her story, they want you to go to A, B, C, and D, and that's the game. Now, Below Zero was technically playable in 2019, only a year after the full release of Subnautica. But again, it had its own early access period, releasing in full back in 2021, so only 2 years compared to the double of that with Subnautica's early access. It's no wonder that it was much shorter and, well, yeah, on tracks. In any case, I predicted that with that 5-year gap between Subnautica's early access and Below Zero's early access, we'd likely have an early access again for Subnautica 3. Probably will see that in 2024. That was based on previous timelines and logic, but not, concrete information. That proved to be relatively accurate because as of mid-December, we had another casual, massive reveal. Not like a trailer, a teaser, or some big marketing thing. What we got was a tweet. This tweet came from the official Subnautica Twitter account, and it followed up on the whole craft and report reveal that happened for the 2025 release. It stated, "Your recent excitement for the next game in the Subnautica universe has been infectious. While we're not quite ready to surface more info, keep watching this space. We'll share more about our early access plans in 2024. So there you have it. They acknowledged the Crafton leak and confirmed that we're going to have big news and soon. Further, they've confirmed that early access is happening for Subnautica 3. They're not just going to release the game. This is going to continue that model of development. This suggests that they're going to talk about the plans for early access in 2024. And the wording made a lot of people think this means 100% the game is coming 2024, which seems to be an error which they clarify on. Either way, while they're clearly not ready to announce or reveal anything yet, we're not far away from when they will be. Maybe we're finally going to get some teasers, trailers, or even an image to look at. It'd be great if we had some actual story and setting context.
That's cool.
What do they mean by Subnautica Universe? Where are we going? What are we doing? Who are we playing? The story of Below Zero? How is that going to be relevant? There's a lot of questions about whether we're actually going to...
He's not going to talk about... That's a very specific word that they used. And then they put an emoji after it. Is there going to be like a virus or something? I don't know.
Have a more original Subnautica experience that's a sandbox adventure, or is it going to be on a tracks sort of story game again? But whatever way they go, the hype is huge. A little tweet like this had 1.3 million views. Pretty
Shit, I'm gonna
exciting.
follow
And they
them.
followed up on this. Once again, it seems they weren't expecting the
I'm
amount of
gonna follow
attention
them right
that they
now.
got. This follow-up quote tweet expressed how shocked they are by that massive response, and then they clarified what they meant. They stated, clearly, they will be sharing their plans in 2024. Specifically saying that early access is going to need longer development, as they call it the fabricator. This says to me that we're definitely getting big Subnautica 3 news in 2024, but
It'll probably be at the
unlikely that
Game
we'll
Show
have a playable
Awards.
version of the game, early access or no, accessible in 2024, which is a real shame. But of course, it's better the game is functional, isn't it? My hope isn't completely dead. The Crafton report stated release in 2025. It's just a question of if they mean early access 2025 or full release. But that brings us to the end of this talk. That's the official information we have.
Exciting.
The three main official events that happen for the game. The Subnautica universe concept revealed. The release being planned for 2025, be that early access or full release. And we're going to get some serious info, finally, in 2024.
That's exciting. All right, internet. Yep, that means it gives me all the more reason to play the original game too after I beat Below Zero, whenever that'll happen. Anything? People do anything stupid today? Ooh. Oh shit, they came out. I'm not going to watch that now, but I definitely am going to watch that later. Weird History has some really cool, like, retrospective videos on, like, the years in the past. I've played the first one, right when it came out. Which was a long fucking time ago. So, I think I could definitely play it again. It's probably going to fall under one of those, you know, those games that I say that I've played and I don't remember any of it, so I might as well not have played it. Because it has been a while. Yeah. Did I not? I didn't, I wanted to watch this. I guess I can watch it now. Actually, you know what? People are about to be over. I think my sister's coming over, so I'm gonna hop off. I'll watch this later on tonight, though. So I'll talk to you later, dude. Take it easy. Oop, I fucked that up.